How does that happen? Can't you perform for a change? You know you're getting somewhere down the road on your layout when you don't need trains anymore for the actors because they won't perform. Anyway, that was my favorite Walther's GP9, by the way. Anyway, let's talk about what's down the road. Okay, how's everybody doing? So spring is in the air, the temperature's warming. I love this part of the year. I can go out on the porch, I can set up my compressor, my airbrush, my scenery stuff. You know, I can just go at her. I can line up a few cars and get into my weathering, you know, that pressure wash technique I love to do, and just I can shoot isopropyl all day long and just have so much fun and not worry about polluting the room here. And you know, creating stuff like I got some neat stuff I want to share on, well, the blackberry bush thing that I'm going to do. I've been trying some let me just show you this dirt on parchment here. Look at this. See this here? This is just parchment, you know, for baking in the oven, paper on 2 pieces of foam just to hold it because it's slippery. And I just taped it on both ends, right, like that, just to clamp the paper around, like wax paper even, I think will work. But this parchment's got a little more grip. So this is just dirt, sifted dirt, dried in the sun. Glued on there with matte medium. Look at it. I mean, that's just the basic sprinkling. Imagine going at that with the airbrush and adding variations to that, eh? You know what I mean? Nice groundwork, eh? Okay, so this is the parchment right here. This stuff right here. See this? Paper Chef Culinary Parchment Paper. Okay? And I wrap it around a piece of foam, 1 inch, 3/4, whatever. And then I take some of this here Liquitex matte medium. You can use carpenter's glue too, probably, but carpenter's glue dries quite stiff. The reason why I want to use this is because it's flexible. Like even when this stuff dries, you know, it sort of has a rubbery, you know, cure to it, and it's very flat too. Like you won't get any sheen or, you know, anything like that, right? So what I'm going to do is just spread some of it around randomly like this. You could probably even get creative with this process too if you want, you know, certain kind of texturing lines and so on. Okay? And then see this here, this is just dirt, right? There's a couple strains there, but it's just dirt from out in the backyard, dried out on a hot summer day. And I make these yogurt cups. I just make all different kinds. Get the little flour sifters from the dollar store or whatever. And you know, they have different mesh sizes, and you can make all your own. So I just take this like this, and I sprinkle it on like this. All right, this is didn't cost anything, right? The dirt, and I have an endless supply. All right. Okay, it's got a little bit of stone in it and stuff. There, and there you have it. Like there's the first part, and then when it dries, you shake it off. And it'll look like this here, this beautiful earth. And I haven't even painted it yet. So, and then I'm going to use some static grass on this and make tufts and stuff and then cut them out. Like little paper tufts on the dirt, like, you know what I mean? So I can place them in and around and about the layout. And then I'm going to do my blackberry bush kind of samples this way. That way I can have a whole sheet and just cut. Like I was, like look at the texture there. That's just matte medium brushed onto this parchment paper and then sprinkled with sifted dirt. Isn't that great? Anyway, so I have a list of stuff that I just want to share with you because this is kind of a spring, see it as a spring layout overview. And I listen to all the comments, I read them all, I respond to them all in the best way I can. And there were some things that I would like to consider that people had mentioned. Number one, figurines. People, remember, you know, I'd sort of said, well, you know, like my layouts or dioramas void of people because I want the person looking at it, like I want them to be the only person sort of immersing into the layout, you know, without any sort of mannequin type suspended animation distractions. That's kind of the idea, right? I mean, that's the way it is right now. It's a vehicle parked there. Obviously, the trains are out of town. But yeah, it's just barren, like a ghost town, I know. But what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take that to heart, that suggestion. I'm going to have figurines for starters. I'm going to do some up here on the bridge. I'm going to have them all, rail fanning looking down. That way they're not too distracting, but if the viewer comes in, you sort of look up and you can see them. Oh, look at that. And then with them all looking down with the heads pointing down kind of, and maybe pointing, to one area, then it'll bring the viewer back into the layout. You know what I mean? And, because the idea is that usually when we view a model, we view it from left to right because we're trained to read books that way. So we look at art that way, whether we realize it or not. So I think I talked about that in some earlier content about composition and stuff. Um, and then vehicles. I have some vehicles. I ordered a truck. Let me just get down here off the stool. And there's a grain truck that I want to scratch build the bins. There's like a pup trailer that's got a triple axle in the middle from Otter Co-op. It's really cool. I got a lot of photos. The truck driver let me climb all over it and take photos of it before the grain elevator at Milner went out of service. So I'm going to do that. I ordered a tractor just from I can't remember the company, but I'll show you later. And I'm going to use that and modify it a bit. I think it's a Kenworth International, or maybe an International. Anyway, so I'm going to do that because I want it parked back in there, sort of angling out here to kind of create a bit of a block here on the road where the line kind of goes. And then also, oh yeah, fencing and barbed wire. Like, I was thinking of, some barbed wire fence or somewhere down here where the tractor is. And then what else was I going to do for vehicles too? Because I mentioned tractor. Oh yeah, bulldozer. I want to have an old cat with like grown over. That's how you see cats. They're parked like the old D7s and stuff. Anyway, I want to have one like that, like another point of interest. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to put the cat, but somewhere. But I want grass growing up through it. I want it to look, yellow, kind of with rust and maybe right there. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so fencing, vehicles, and figures, I will consider those because these are some of the exciting parts now because I'm getting to the point now where, um, the layout's kind of been stroked, with 3 or 4 passes and the composition is pretty much established and, now it's time to do some really neat details, right? Before I call it finished. I mean, I could in a way, but I don't really want to yet. Yes, I've been thinking about the new layout that I want to do, but I'm just holding off right now. I'm being patient about that. I checked out building supplies yesterday. Whoa, man. $55 for a cheap sheet of 3/4 plywood. Anyway, that's okay. That won't stop me. But because the new layout, I can probably build the framework with 2 sheets. And then I'll use Medite or Masonite for the valance work. Okay, so let me just close with some details to do on here. Okay, overgrowth around the grain elevator spur. Okay, so see right here. So there's going to be like a silo here, like in the photos. I can show you another photo just to remind you or point out what that might look like. Okay, and then as you can see, the elevator runs on an angle here, and it runs under the ground, and the hopper cars roll in here, and they get pulled over the silo, and it drops down through the tracks and then into a big silo underground, goes up this elevator here to this elevator section, then up to the top into the bins, and then the trucks, they get loaded underneath this bay here, and then away they go to the livestock farms, chicken farms, cattle farms, whatever. So, and then I need more weeds and stuff. Like there's been a lot of grain cars here for over 50 years, so there's a lot of, it's been killed off with Roundup, obviously, but now it's growing back in again. There's a lot of green and moss and stuff like I showed in the earlier scenery part 2 that I want to do in here, okay? Okay, overgrowth around the grain elevator spur. Now more grass around the edge of buildings. Oh yeah, okay, let me pan over to the left here and I'll show you what I want to address here as well. See the building here, the cold storage, and then the shops building down there by the auto rack. So what I want to do is I want to, like these just pop out, they're wild. So I'm going to redo, I'm going to add more edging grass like along here. You can see the shadow there. And I want more grass here, but I'm going to have it so it's a straw colored, like dead yellow, kind of, maybe I'll use buff, you know, over some green or whatever, but I think I'll use the static grass applicator there. That's another thing. For those of you that don't have one, try to get one or make one or whatever and learn to use it a bit here and there because they are, I mean, that's how I did like this part here under the trees, right? I mean, I'm not a master at the static grass applicator, but I'm learning, you know, just like everybody else is, right? Okay, so yeah, so grass around the base of the buildings work. Oh, and then another follower months and months ago mentioned, what about a concrete block for at the end of the stub here? And so I thought, okay, but you know, that's something that had to take a number. But I'm going to put a sort of a custom concrete block. I'll just make it out of foam or balsa wood or something and plaster it over, just so that if a car runs away, it won't go through the building there. Okay, and then right, so blackberry bushes under the trees here, like along the fence. Okay, and then trees. I have more trees. I have 5 more trees I'm building for down here. I want this kind of look, like a pie shape. So when the eye comes across from these trees, then the viewer is reintroduced to another section of trees coming out from Neverland over here. So I'm going to have 4 or 5 trees in here. Look, I know there's things like, oh, they'd never have trees there and stuff, but I mean, you know, it's proto-lance, right? Freelance. Besides, I want the trees like smaller here and then tapering up, right? Sort of in front of this cell tower building and so on, right? So I think that'll fill this area really nice and hide some of this wall back here. Okay, maybe I can fix that corner with a piece of watercolor paper and sky blue just to put a curved section in there. And then this is a curved watercolor back here so I don't have to paint the wall. Okay, and then, oh, last but not least, I want to rework the Dairy Queen parking lot. Okay. I started to. I've got some earth, sort of dust and dirt from this parking lot from access in and out to this kind of yard office scene here. But I want to redo this, or well, super detail this a little more with broken glass, boarded up windows. And if anyone has any ideas or where I can find one, I'd like to find an old Plymouth or something. You know, I could put up on blocks here maybe. You know, just rusting out because when I was a kid, there was one in my aunt's yard up in a log cabin up in North Vancouver when I grew up as a kid, and I had a tree growing out of it. There was talk of restoring it, but it never happened. But anyway, so yeah, or somewhere in here, but I want this kind of sort of abandoned kind of look, right? Because as you know, that was sort of representative of me growing up in the 60s and 70s, but you know, signs of the times, things are changing, right? So I want to have that, I want to add more character and charm down in this corner. Okay? So, and then maybe some chain link fence or some 4-rail fence, but you know, we'll see, right? But it's really exciting, you know, the small shelf layout genre, because you can actually, like, this is about a good year solid work. I mean, it took a little bit longer, but this is what you get when you actually get a layout in the end with a lot of character. And it's not the size, it's the immersion level. And then if you're like a collector as well, man, you just put your cars on here. You can change the period up if you make it generic like this, you know, like this can go for 2010 or it can go for 60s, 70s almost too, right? You can run a steam on here. You can get away with a period steam, maybe not, but you could do it as a heritage though, or a restored, you know, locomotive, you know, and with sound and stuff. Hey man, this is the way to go. This is the way of the future. The big layouts are great, you know, the traditional large layout, but who has them? Only the boomers have them, really, and we're dying off. So, especially for the millennial, man. If you don't have space, man, don't let it be an excuse. You know, design and build a nice little shelf layout and just go to town on it and practice all the model railroad skills that you can. And you can incorporate it into a larger layout down the road or just have it as a one-off, you know? Okay, so thanks for tuning in. Thank you for all your support. Thank you to all my new subscribers as well. And I hope you're encouraged to model because I have lots of great content this summer coming. I'm really looking forward to it, and I really appreciate every one of you, okay? So I hope that you have a great day.